works.
That's Mike right here.
Hey, Mike.
How's it going, Mr. Mathai? Good to see you.
Mr.
Well, welcome everyone to Three Guys, One Music. This is Jamey, and of course, I'm always here with Mike and Grant. Hello, guys.
Hello.
We have a special guest this week. Mr. Patrick is going to talk to us about his experience.
Give that more, Mike.
Also, Patrick.
DJ and general background. We'll just get into it here in a minute. We're, of course, going to talk what we've been listening to this week. And I want to start by saying, please like and subscribe. We always appreciate your support. It really helps us out a lot. Thanks so much.
And if you don't, the terrorists win.
Yeah.
Well, I tried it. You know,
Don't,
they can't all be zingers.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start out what I've been listening to. And that is, I just want to talk real quickly about the Strat debacle.
Oh, yes.
I got this resolved. Yeah, this was really not discussed, but I had a little bit of a crazy situation. Won't go into, but it's got me on this little quest for listening to as many Strat tones as I can just digest, which I love. And what I've been listening to is Traffic's 1971 release, Low Spark of High Heeled Boys.
Love it.
Fantastic record. Love it. Particularly love Rock and Roll Stew, one of my all-time favorite songs from that era. I've been listening to Pink Floyd's Pulse live record from 1995 on the Division Bell tour. Surprising how great that record is, because I kind of dismissed it and ignored it for a long, long time. And I think it might be my favorite live record of theirs. Very, very good. Great energy. Great performances. And finally, I've been listening to Eagles' 1979 release, The Long Run, and loving it. So many great songs on that record, and loving the guitar tones of Mr. Don Felder and Joe Walsh. So that's what I've been listening to.
Cool.
About you, Grant?
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what I've been listening
It's been
to.
a short time since our
Straight to the point. I
podcast.
dig it.
And I've been catching up on some shows on streaming, so I haven't had any extra time to listen.
Yeah, I'm rewatching Breaking Bad right now.
Oh,
I haven't
Oh,
watched
goodness.
that in many years. I'm on the beginning of the 5th season. So yeah,
can't go wrong with that.
yeah, it's such a great show. Yeah.
Someday I'll tune in.
Oh my God, you've never watched it?
I've
Blasphemy.
never seen it.
Oh,
Blasphemy.
And by the time I
Blasphemy.
decided I really need to see it, it's like, what, 65 hours of video? I don't
it's
have that kind
so
of time.
worth it. It's so
Good
worth
Lord,
it.
man.
If you're interested in filmmaking and cinematography
Yes.
and screenwriting,
It's incredibly well
not-
done.
I don't know you at all.
I watch movies all the time. That's a TV show.
I
It's
don't know
completely
you at
different.
all.
No, it's not.
If
I
it,
know.
makes
I
you
understand.
feel if it makes you feel any better, I think I got like a season and change in sometime 10 years ago, left for a music festival and just never picked it back up.
That's exactly me, man.
Well, this is what I have to say about it. I started watching this when I lived in Los Angeles. I watched the first season, enjoyed it. The second season, I thought really was a drag. I did not enjoy it, and I almost abandoned it. And I just stuck with it. Third season, really started to understand where everything was going. The fourth season is my personal favorite. It's incredible. And the fifth season delivers it, it delivers. I don't love every episode in it, but the fifth season really tidies things up very nicely. So I think it's completely worth your time, and they make an incredible use of songs in the TV show.
Mhm.
And it's
Someday I'm gonna
really intelligent.
someday I'm gonna pick it up, and I'm just gonna wear you
I
guys
encourage you.
out talking about it. You're gonna be like,
Well-
I've already seen it. It's like, it's new to me.
It is
I mean,
great.
funnily
But,
enough, one of my favorite shows of all time is Mad Men, which was airing on
Yeah.
AMC like the exact same time as Breaking Bad throughout both their
Yeah.
runs. So there you go.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. All right.
I just,
All right, Mike. What do you
I just
listen to,
realized
man?
that every time you start talking, Jamie, I turn my good ear toward the computer screen.
You got
Right.
headphones.
I've got headphones on, even though
Yes.
it helps me hear.
Grab mine real quick.
I turn my good ear.
Well,
So,
thought
we've
you-
lost Patrick.
He
I
went
thought
to
you were going to say I wasn't talking nearly loud enough.
No, it's
Oh,
just
yeah, plenty
it's
loud.
just a habit, when
Yeah.
you when you say something interesting, I'm going to lean in with my good ear. So
I think you're being sarcastic, sir.
maybe just a little bit.
Pairing.
Maybe trying to at least get rid of whatever echo might be there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not on our end,
Okay.
at least recording.
All right, just
So
I'm just trying to be a good guest, I guess.
no problem.
On this wonderful show. I don't think it's working, but oh well.
We're the home of technical issues here.
Welcome
But,
to technical difficulties with
mm.
Jamey.
We have
But,
dealt with these a lot. Yes.
Jamey, you say you're listening to strat tones, and I just don't do that when I listen to music during the week. But this week,
Yes.
in that week, I've decided to search out those guitar tones that appeal to me, that I would like to emulate. Maybe not. Straight up emulate. I've been listening to a lot of Royal Blood and Tool, and between Mike Kerr and Justin Chancellor, that sound I'm looking for somewhere in between the two. Mike Kerr, of course, splits his signal to play both the guitar part and the bass, and his bass is pretty straightforward. But the high registers are processed to give you that guitar sound, and maybe I don't need that big a sound from the bass, but I appreciate the immediacy of his sound, And then there's Justin Chancellor, who has that dirty and dry mix, which I've kind of got also, but it's not a big round tone, but it's a ballsy bass tone, and that appeals to me. Like I said, if I could find something in between those two. Joe Lester of Intronaut also is on my list of tones I really like, although I haven't listened to them as much this week. That's in the future. That's my future listening playlist, I guess. But yeah, really looking for bass tones that something that I'd like to kind of try and emulate. Maybe when I spend more time playing bass, I'll figure out what I'm looking for.
This is quite the expensive of a journey.
Yeah,
for all of us trying to do this.
Well, I've got all the toys, man.
Expensive.
I just need to push the right buttons.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, though. I mean, because I know, I think you of course need to know what they're playing through and what they're using to have an idea, and I can enjoy it on that level. If I know I can visualize what they're playing, and I can listen to it and know more or less what they're playing. I know if they're using a Gibson guitar, Gibson type guitar, or a Fender type guitar, I know that immediately. So, and I can also hear if they're playing a Fender or a Marshall type, amp. So, that is another level of enjoyment that I can appreciate, whatever I'm listening to, because I can put myself in that place and go, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. But I wonder if, you wonder when you have so much gear, if you're really, because I have so much gear, do I really need to find, I don't know, you've got a 12-string guitar, and the main, besides hitting the right note, hitting all the notes at one time, 3 at a time, is controlling it, because it rings forever, so there's accuracy and control, and adding any effects to it just makes it more uncontrollable sometimes. So it's the learning curve when learning how to play that thing.
I would think that a 12-string bass would not require any processing, maybe a little delay, but you certainly not any modulation.
Depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, because you've got a 12-string bass. You've got 4 courses of 3 strings, 1 bass and 2 octave strings, and the 2 octaves. There's that joke: if you play 12-string, you spend half your time tuning and the other half playing out of tune.
Yeah.
Because you can't get them in tune, but that slight difference adds kind of modulation in a chorus effect.
Correct.
And then if you hit the strings hard, you get the strings rattling against each other. So there's that bit of distortion in there, and all those things conspire to make a bigger sound, where you have to learn how to control everything going on the guitar.
Welcome to bass tones with Michael.
Yeah, playing through the amplifiers as loud as I play them, that's an art. I mean, it's always a battle trying to control it, and because I don't like to play at a low volume. I want to crank it. That's the only.
Right.
That's the way I enjoy the sound of the guitar. It's
Well,
not got anything to do with volume. It's got to do with the compression of the tubes and all that stuff. But there's something.
Yeah, but I like my pants flapping in the breeze too.
Yeah, me too. Yep. Yes, I like it. All right.
All right. Patrick, we've gotten way off subject. What have you been listening to recently?
Well, circling back around to Royal Blood, I actually just saw them in Atlanta back in May.
yeah.
So second time. They still put on a great show. And yeah, like you were saying, just bass and drums, a lot of processing on that bass to fill it out, but hell of a sound.
Yeah.
For me, this past week has been just, I got a couple playlists that I bounce through whenever I'm getting ready for a gig. Just keeps things on the brain when I'm getting ready. But as far as albums go, one of my favorite bands, Japan Droids, just put out their 4th and final album this past Friday. So I've been grieving alongside the dozens and dozens of other people who enjoy Japan Droids.
I'm gonna make a note of that.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them.
They're a Canadian kind of like indie rock, punk rock, another duo based out of Vancouver, guitar and drums.
Mhm.
Just the one album I'm going to say to check out, because this is the band that was put on this earth for the sole purpose of making celebration rock. That's the name of their second album. And I think I saw someone describe it as like, imagine if the Replacements made Appetite for Destruction instead of Guns N' Roses.
Oh, cool.
So they're calling it quits. I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, they've been at it for a while. Their first album was originally supposed to be their last one because they just weren't getting a lot of support outside of just their local scene. But then Pitchfork got a hold of it when they were getting ready to roll it out, started hyping the ever-living hell out of them. So that led to more attention, more interest, more shows. And about 2 years into touring what's supposed to be their final release, they said, why don't we just make another album?
Yeah, I'm just looking at one of the records, and the one that comes up is Fate and Alcohol. And I work in healthcare, and I have to say that the first thing that came to my mind as I just looked at this was like fetal alcohol syndrome. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, what? But it is Fate and Alcohol.
I think that's just how it sounds with Canadian accent.
Yeah. I will admit that I like the band, but it is an acquired taste for me. So I don't listen to them often, but once in a while, draw them up, and it's a good band.
I mean, it's very much a dudes rock kind of band, like to a degree that I met one of my best friends when I was in college. I met him because we both wrote for a satire website that was like loosely affiliated with Appalachian, that just like kind of focused on Boone. I went to my very first meeting. I just happened to sit next to him, and I just happened to be wearing my Japan Droids t-shirt, and he just happened to be a fan, and we've been friends ever since. Like, he's the guy that he lives in Nashville now, and I live in Greensboro. So music festivals is like how we like get together and meet up and hang out and, throw down, so to speak.
Nice.
That's cool.
And Japan Droids is that band that led to that for me.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. I plan to wear my Juice Newton t-shirt this weekend. Maybe I can make a friend. We'll see.
I'll probably be playing plenty of Juice Newton tomorrow.
Is that right? Is that at the station? Yeah. Is it okay if we mention the station on the podcast?
I'd rather not, just for, I don't know, representation's sake. Don't exactly have permission. So I'll just say I work at a classic country station in Asheboro.
Okay. Classic country meaning how far back do you go?
Well, when it comes to radio, the traditional professional sense is classic means 15 years and older. So it could be as recent as 2009, as scary as that sounds. I think the oldest song that we play is Patsy Montana's "I Want to Be a Cowboy Sweetheart." That's from 1937, and it sounds like it was recorded in 1937.
Yeah.
Like, how much demand do you have for that song?
I can't say I've gotten any requests for it, but it's just interesting whenever it pops up.
Okay. Now, I do have a question. Automatically, I have a question. Now, do you make the playlist, or is it provided for you, or do you how much power do you have to say, well, I think I want to play this today?
Well, really, the So I work at a really small station, but really what happens is everything's pretty much auto generated. Like one of the things that I do before I get on air every day, I do afternoons down there. But I go in, I just like put the program logs for each day together, like that are coming up. And that's like all the ads and all the songs and all the liners. And, there's like various software that, gets everything in order, but I'm really there just to get everything on time and fix whatever minor errors there might be. But beyond that, nope, everything's generated.
Okay.
Every time you look, dirty secret of the radio is whenever you're listening to one of those like total request hours, there's no requests are taken. The playlist is already determined. Right. And if someone just happens to call in requesting a song that's on the log, then they'll just play the phone call going into the intro.
Wow.
Well, I'm shook.
Who determines the lists? How is that generated?
It's really just a matter of how certain songs are classified. Like it might be classified under like just some certain kind of like alphabetized system. Like songs from the 40s or the 50s might be classified a certain way. The 60s, 70s, the Outlaws might be classified a certain way. Some of the more commercial stuff from the 90s, like Garth Brooks or Shania Twain or Faith Hill, might be classified like a certain way. So it's just a matter of picking and choosing and pulling from that to like get something resembling a variety.
So are you a big country fan now since you've been working at the station for so long? Or you just appreciate it?
I absolutely appreciate it. I just don't really listen to it too much when I'm not being paid.
Yeah, I got you. So how'd you get into the radio DJ? Were you a DJ in college?
I was. Really, the story goes back to high school because I came of age listening to all the great college radio stations that we have in Greensboro. So especially Guilford College, but UNCG, A&T, everything else going on with that. So
all three of those excellent stations, by the way.
Yeah, and I'll get back to WUAG real soon, the UNCG station. Yeah. But two things I knew when I was like getting ready to get out of high school, I knew I wanted to go to Appalachian, and I knew I wanted to do college radio. But semester before I got to Appalachian, WASU won an NTVU award or something for best college radio station in the country. Mm-hmm. I don't know the specific details behind it, but somewhere along the line that gave it a partnership with iHeartRadio.
Oh,
okay.
So I got my start at WASU at Appalachian State, and look, there was like plenty good about it, and I am not going to trash talk it at all because like WASU was very much designed for people that wanted to get into broadcasting like as a career. I didn't know that going in. Then that made me a little more stubborn than I probably should have been, but that's the way it was set up.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say I love iHeart because her podcast is on iHeart. So I love it.
Well, the good folks at iHeart really, you know what? I will say this. The good folks at iHeartRadio supplied the means to give me a great education in electronic media broadcasting because by the time I got there, Appalachian just happened to have a fantastic broadcasting department, which my theory behind why is because the football team was doing really well and all that money had to go somewhere.
Right. Yeah. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like
sports programs.
Yeah. I mean, with Appalachian specifically, I mean, you can pinpoint the date, September 1st, 2007, when we beat Michigan. That gave us a lot of attention. It gave us a lot of money, had a lot more people starting to apply to Appalachian. Tuition starts to go up a little bit. All that money that's coming in has to go somewhere. And my theory that I can't back up with facts, but I just kind of know is true is that if your program was like loosely affiliated with the football team, you definitely got some kickback.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like Boone had a fantastic music scene when I was there. And I really do believe that was because of the association with the marching band, the music school got a lot of money to play around with. So you get a lot of world-class musicians that are suddenly coming into Boone and forming bands. I've got a whole podcast that's been in the works for years and years about that with a few friends of mine, but we don't have to get into that. But broadcasting absolutely got some kickback because whenever ESPN3 or ESPNU or whatever is coming into town to broadcast an Appalachian football game, those are broadcast students behind the cameras.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool.
I just want to say I had a question. Do you happen to know anything about Wake Forest's and Winston-Salem, their radio station? I don't even know if they have one, but the reason I ask is because I used to do x-rays. I was on the sideline with the team, with the coaches, and whenever a player got injured, I would go in the locker room and take x-rays. And I was near where they were doing audio, asking the coaches. I saw that quite a bit, in the locker room area. So, I mean, do they have a healthy, do you know anything about theirs, or
Wake
is that
Forest,
just typical? Yeah.
Wake Forest in particular, I don't know off the top of my head if they do.
Okay.
I can probably look it up. But I mean, like the only one that I really know that's affiliated with Wake Forest is the NPR station, WFT.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
It seemed like they had a bit of a budget. Of course, I know that school does,
Yeah, it's any kind of influx of financial help to a college radio station is definitely appreciated. I know High Point University, I'm not sure when they were High Point College, they had a radio station that was actually pretty good, but it had a total of 10 watts of power. And
Really?
if you weren't on the same block as the school, it would fade out. You couldn't get it. They didn't have an antenna. It went out over the telephone wires.
Well, how
That
did
was
you
their
hear
antenna.
it?
I drove around the block. I was
Wow.
down there close to the school on Lexington
Was that good?
Avenue.
Well,
And well, when I was there, I'd tune in and
being
but,
in the mountains,
all right.
a little more altitude to work with on that end.
Yeah.
But
But,
that was the thing about sorry, not to, but just like to try to get back on track was like
Yeah.
WASU. I pretty much learned everything that I needed to know about radio. I could like walk into a job interview and say, I have experience with being on air. I have experience with programming, production, promotion, sales, like whatever facets of the job you have to do. The other side of that is I don't know if this is due to just the way it was set up or if it was the association with iHeart, but WASU's format was basically AAA adult album alternative. So it sounded like a commercial alternative radio station, minus certain legal things due to it being a public radio station.
Mm-hmm. So you actually got something from your college education.
Believe it or not, yes. But that was I mean, I didn't really understand that going in. That made me a little more stubborn about, I guess I got a little bit of an anti-authoritative streak in me. So have fun with that, Mr. Mathai.
Welcome to the club.
Come on into the club. Join the club.
Grant's the king of this.
Yeah, but it did actually end up working in my favor because of whatever frustrations to not being able to just play whatever I want on air when I'm just doing a regular format shift. It led to the idea of, hey, you know what? I know a lot of people that are starting bands around here and they're recording demos, and this is a college radio station. This should be our bread and butter. Why don't I start doing a local music show? And I met with the faculty advisor about it, just said, hey, I got an idea. What do you think? And first thing he did was he spent about 10 minutes listing out every possible thing that could go wrong. And then saying, but on the other hand, if you can pull it off, it's a good show.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, he wasn't discouraging me. He was just saying, hey, here's all the work you're going to have to do and keep doing if you want this thing to keep going.
And you got to do that.
Oh, absolutely. I ran that show for 3 years.
Now, did they put you on at 2 a.m. just in case?
No, this was a specialty show, and those had certain times in the late afternoon and evening that were carved out specifically for that. So I had Friday nights at 8.
Oh, all right.
Which accidentally ended up being the perfect time slot.
Was that intimidating? Because it is a good time slot.
Oh,
for radio.
Absolutely. I mean, I was a little bummed out that like 8 o'clock would like get in the way of, I don't know, maybe I wanted to go home that weekend or there was something I wanted to do, but I embraced it, and it really did end up being the perfect time slot because I got involved in the Boone music scene just because I needed to fill an hour every week.
Yeah.
And it also just happened to be at a time in Boone's music scene where there were a lot of great bands popping up, 2 of which are actually kind of big right now. I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of Rainbow Kitten Surprise or the Nude Party, but they both got started in Boone around the time I was there.
Yeah, I've heard of Nude Party.
Actually,
Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Oh yeah, dumb band names were abound.
Yeah.
I actually just took Olivia to see the nude party a couple weeks ago when they were playing at Cohab.
How was that show? She didn't tell me anything about it.
She was kind of going in blind, but she had a good time and they were great. I was able to say what's up to the drummer afterwards and we're just commiserating how the kids wearing App State t-shirts look like literal children.
Yeah, the kids,
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
So
the thing I say about the nude party all the time is they got their name exactly how you think.
yeah. Tell us the story.
I mean, I'm not saying I was there or that I participated in any way. I'm just saying that once upon a time, 6 dudes in Boone, North Carolina started a band, and their first couple of shows were playing in the basement of the house where they rented, where they would just get completely naked and play 60s garage rock and deaded rock and roll songs. And it was a rad time.
All right. Sounds like
Love
fun.
to hear the tapes of this.
How
How does that make you play better? Does it?
You know what? I do have
Looser,
a
man.
couple
You're
of,
looser.
It makes you play more cautious.
I will say, there was one show where one of those early nude in the basement shows where a girl was dancing a little too aggressively by the speaker and like almost knocked it over onto the one of the members, who promptly kicked at her and said, "Bitch, if I die, who's gonna play the keys?"
That's the name of the next album.
It ought to be a t-shirt, man. Yeah.
Believe it or not, I do have 2 very early EPs that they have completely scrubbed from the internet in their history.
Oh yeah.
But due to me running my local music show. But yeah, that's one band, and then Rainbow Kitten Surprise is the other band. They're signed to Elektra Records. They made their like US TV debut on Colbert back in 2018.
Nice.
Last time I saw them play live was at a music festival in Atlanta. They were playing on the main stage right before freaking Green Day.
Excellent.
So they're going on right before the headliner. I'm seeing tens of thousands of people singing along to these songs word for word. And I'm just looking at stage, looking at the audience, and I'm thinking to myself, that guy has been passed out drunk on my couch before.
Yeah.
That guy playing on stage and like just soaking in the adulation of thousands.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that got started with radio, and that was my bread and butter. I eventually ended up being the music director at WASU my senior year, which that really just entails you get a lot of promo CDs, you get a lot of promo emails, you get a lot of phone calls from people working at these promotional agencies. Some of them you like better than most. Some of them you just don't even get the time of day, because you say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but every genre has its own aesthetic trappings. You can kind of tell looking at something if it's going to be format or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so after like basically just going through whatever could be in consideration to go on air, I would have a weekly meeting with the program director, say, hey, here's what I think we should add, just based on who's released what, how big they are, if it's going to be a chart impact or anything like that. And then once we get that approved, I have to edit them down, just like not like edit the songs, but so much as just like adjust the volume and like put a hard limit on it so I can so it's not like blowing out your ears, and then upload it into our music computer to get played on air. And then
That sounds like work.
And back when CMJ was a thing, I would submit chart data. They went out of business like right before my second semester doing that.
Okay, I have a technical question. You just mentioned something about, I think I understood you to say that you were adjusting basically the volume, because we all know that music is released at radically different volumes. And if you want it to be consistent, and I guess compression is used on radios, is that something that you have to manually do, or does it automatically do it? I'm curious about this.
I manually do it.
Okay.
When it comes to broadcasting, whatever audio workstation y'all are using on your own time, but the industry standard for radio is basically Adobe Audition. So I just drag the file in there. I click favorites, normalize to -3, amplitude, hard limiter, -3, save it as a WAV file, put it into the other computer.
So you don't have to listen to it in advance, and you're not doing it on your own. It's kind of like sound check on like an iPhone, where it's automatically gonna adjust all the music to basically the same volume. Is that right?
Well, only the music that we're going to add. I mean, I still have to listen to it to see if it.
Oh,
I would still have to listen to see if it would match consideration.
okay.
What would help was once some freshmen started getting involved, they weren't like they had to take a class to be able to be on air. So if they wanted to get like involved in the station while they were taking the class, I would just go to like a WASU DJs meeting, try to pick out who was like the biggest music nerds, and say, "Hey, y'all, do you want to intern for me?"
Right.
There he goes.
All right. Delegate.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
come to the music office at these times on these days, rip some CDs, and tell me if it's format or not.
Nice.
Which,
Well, I was just going to say that the volume matching, or whatever you want to call it, or putting in playlists, I spend way too much time doing that, because I don't want to listen to something that's way quieter than something else in a playlist when I'm in the car. They've got to be roughly within the same area. So, it's a consideration that I've spent way too much time.
It's like changing
giving.
TV channels or commercials coming on TV and it's screaming at you. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
So I can only imagine in a radio situation, it'd have to be, you'd have to make sure that that's done one way or the other. So I've never asked anybody that and didn't know exactly how that was done. So you answered.
every place I've been to, the standard has been -3 dB.
Oh, okay.
It gives it enough headroom that it's not going to like distort, or like you can turn it up, you can turn it down. Basically, as long as there's headroom, you're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus, say, an Oasis record where everything is mixed to be like -0.1 dB to be as loud as possible before compression.
Right. Yeah, that's a thing. We all have listened to the loudness wars with remastering of CDs, and
Oh yeah.
it's a thing. So I personally like that volume on a CD. I don't really care. I feel like I know what it's going to sound like. So when I hear bands that really try to mix stuff louder because they want to try to make sure that it's got the dynamics, I'm like, I don't care about that. That's just me. But
that's the thing about the increased dynamic range on CDs that seems like everyone forgot at some point in the 90s is you can also get quieter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a few remasters that are just terrible. They're just,
no.
oh man, the dynamics are all over the place.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's, not something to mess with.
You're starting to see some albums that came out in the mid to late 90s that are actually starting to benefit from streaming because whatever compression has to be on streaming service like eases out the loudness wars from like the CD mix. And one example that I see cited a lot is Californication.
Mm-hmm.
Because you listen to that thing on CD and it sounds like you're dragging a metal shovel on a driveway.
Yeah, I can hear that. It's a bit abrasive. Yeah.
So Patrick, speaking of albums and formats, you have a ridiculous LP collection, do you not?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a number?
Let me check Discogs real quick. Let's see. The point
43,000.
It's in the quadruple digits. I can tell you that much.
I know when you moved into your new apartment, how many days did it take you to arrange your LPs?
We're talking more in terms of months at that point.
Months.
Yeah.
Why LPs?
Well,
why is that your format? And I'm not knocking it. I have more LPs than I need now, and I still buy new ones here and there. But what's your take?
I mean, I could give you all the standard mumbo jumbo that you hear. It's like, it sounds so warm, no loudness wars. They have to like sit with the music. I got into it because I thought it was cool. Like, that's just plain and simple. Just growing up with CDs, and then like at the very beginning of my life, like using cassettes, like, I don't know. Vinyl just always seemed ideal, I guess. I mean, it took a while to like hear a record that sounded like what I imagined records sounded like when someone first told me why it sounded good. But I mean, like I got the appeal, and I asked for like a record player for years when I was a teenager for Christmas, and I just never got one until finally my senior year. We were moving my grandma into a retirement community, and my dad had me like help move stuff out of her condo, and she said, "You can either have $100 or you can have anything in the house that you want." And I was just like, I thought about it, and then I saw a turntable, a receiver, a 5 CD changer, a preamp, and 2 bookshelf speakers that I still have sitting out in my living room. I said, "I'll take that."
Nice,
Cool.
nice.
Now, what is this? What is a record that you would consider a great example of what you always thought that a record should sound like? I'm curious about this.
For me, and this is maybe a bit of a niche, but LCD Sound Systems Live from Madison Square Garden, the box set that they put out for Record Store Day in 2014. Because that was supposed to be their last show ever, which ended up not being the case, but that's neither here nor there. But I've seen the documentary. It was a great show. I've heard like the soundboard rip from the high C's, and it sounded great. I was at the record store one day. I saw a black box like as it was closing up and like getting ready to throw out the new arrivals. It wasn't, but I said, I just said, well, if you ever happen to get it to come in, not thinking it was ever going to happen. 2 weeks later, he sends me a message that he had gotten it in for $200, which, I mean, it's a box set of 5 LPs, so I'd say it was worth it. Picked it up, and I don't know. You just hear old heads back in the day talking about, like, you have the warmth of the bass and the scratch of the guitar. If you don't have a reference point, then you get a certain sound image in your head. And that was probably the first time I ever dropped the needle and said, that sounds exactly what I thought it would sound like.
Wow.
Yeah, sweet.
I have listened to some records many years ago where I was shocked at the superior quality. Now, there's still scratches and it's still imperfect, but I enjoyed it so much more. And maybe because I grew up with them, I don't know, but CDs rarely are satisfying. And even digital files, clearly, you just do the best you can with them. And they're obviously very convenient, but there is something about an LP that, I get why people, do that. That's a rabbit hole.
Especially these days, it really just comes down to how it's mastered, because if you're mastering something for vinyl, then it has to be mixed and mastered a certain way.
Right. And forever it wasn't. Forever CDs were used the masters that were for LPs, and that's why they sound like garbage forever. Yeah. So that
was a big deal when the Beatles finally reissued their catalog in 2009.
Yeah,
because every time a Legacy act reissued their catalog for the 7th or 8th time, those 1987 masters were sounding thinner and thinner.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
and it's just a matter of like analog source versus digital source. I mean, if everything's going to be a digital source today, then it really just comes down to the mixing and mastering.
Yeah, I do. I admit that I'm very specific about the albums I pick up now, just because it's something I want to sit down and listen to. And that's the appeal of an LP, is you have to be involved in it. With a CD, you can do the same thing, and it is a more convenient format, but there is something to sitting down with an LP and absorbing it as it's supposed to be. But segue, Patrick is not only a DJ, but he's a DJ. And do you still use the LPs as your format for your DJ shows?
Why, yes, I do. In fact.
Nice.
All right.
I don't know how well that's showing up, but this is my setup. I use 2 Audio-Technica AT-LP 120s. They're basically Techniques 1200s knockoffs, and Newmark scratch for a mixer. And now that I finally have this loaded up, the only other thing that I need is any selection of my 1,136 records.
So how many records do you carry with you when you're doing a show?
As much as I can.
Wow. That just seems like a lot of trouble.
Well,
But I'm old and lazy, so
one of the first major gigs that I ever had, like by myself, I wasn't borrowing anyone else's gear. The next day, my lower back was screaming at me so much that I immediately just started. I just thought I need to start doing more deadlifts at the gym if I'm going to keep doing this.
Most important piece of equipment a DJ can have is a 2-wheel hand truck.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
That's
I have another
around.
question. Whenever you are taking, say you take 15 LPs, 20, whatever you take, are you're preparing for what you think you might play, but you have to read the room, right? I mean, that seems like something that is not discussed nearly enough. When you're providing music for something, if the vibe is just different, you've got to be creative. I would imagine that'd be one of the fun things about being a DJ. It's like you're not just to say, well, this is what I already know what I'm going to play. Reading the room and deciding how we're going to get these people involved and motivated. That would be the fun part to me. Am I thinking about that right?
Well, it's definitely the part that keeps it interesting and keeps me on my toes, especially if I'm going with wax. Because there's some days where everything is hitting, and there's some days where I can't play anything that can get someone to wiggle their finger.
Okay.
But I mean, also, I guess one of the ways I try to remedy that is I try to wait as late as possible to try to pick out what music I'm going to bring.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, I could pack it the night before and then wake up in the morning and be like, you know what? I'm not feeling any of this.
Yeah.
I could get a text from someone at the venue who's telling me what the vibe is, or if anything's going down, or maybe the cops have someone pulled over so people aren't exactly wandering around the sidewalks. That happens more often than you think.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good question. I wouldn't have thought of that, that how often you might have to switch gears once you already get there.
Yeah, speaking of switching gears, I'm not only just using records, like I'm in the 21st century at this point.
Right.
It dragged me in kicking and screaming.
Right.
But me and one of my friends, we have a monthly residency at one of our favorite dive bars in Greensboro. And for that, we use his digital setup. And that really is just, you get like one big solid state thing with 2 spinning plates and a bunch of buttons. It hooks up to a laptop that connects to Tidal. And I just read the room and try to go off the top of the dome.
Cool. That just seems like a very fun thing to do. I mean, it's a challenge. But yeah,
you can play what you like, but not necessarily the people are going to be digging it.
Yeah, it's all about striking that balance, because I want to play what I want to play. I don't want to be told I have to play explicitly certain things, but at the same time, if they ain't dancing, they ain't dancing.
Yeah.
Right.
So how much of your time is spent pushing the slider and the other time waving your fist in the air? That's the DJ thing, right? I mean, is there a requirement as to how much time you spend with the fist in the air, or is that just up to you?
Well, I have to meet with the union on that one, because
union thing. Okay.
I think they're changing their monthly quotas for this upcoming quarter.
And Libya has told me that you don't wiki very often, so I don't know if that's a union thing too, or if maybe that's passe. But I, as an older person, I like the wiki, and sometimes you just expect that. That's all I got. That's all I got.
I mean, it depends on what I'm throwing. Depends on what I'm playing. But I mean, when I'm doing a hip hop set, then yeah, absolutely, I'm scratching.
Yeah, cool.
See, I think that's a great band name, Wiki.
Wiki.
Yeah, I would buy that just with a name alone.
I'm sure there's some no-name New York wave band from the '80s that had that name.
There absolutely should be.
It could happen. I'm making a note right now.
Now, Patrick, do you play any instruments? Are you a musician as well?
I've been playing guitar since I was 10 years old. So,
okay, cool.
My God, I've been playing guitar for 20 years.
Imagine how we feel.
So the theme for this segment is just existential crisis.
Yeah, there you go.
Also a good band name. We're just racking them up today.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be our next show. Your top 10 list of band names.
So what kind of stuff do you play? What kind of music do you like to play?
My first love in life was punk rock, so it all stems from that.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Indie rock is definitely my jack of trades. Like the Strokes are my favorite band. I've seen Arctic Monkeys more times than I can count at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just big one's LCD Sound System, though that's not really guitar-based band so much as synth. But I think I'm getting off track here. But yeah, I've been playing guitar since I was 10, so I can. I'm serviceable at bass. I can fumble around on a couple Radiohead songs on the piano, and I can be in the world's greatest White Stripes cover band as the drummer.
Nice.
All right, a little bit of everything. Cool.
It helps. You know, jack of all trades, a master of. We'll see.
Got to master that wiki, and then you're good to go.
I'm doing my best.
All right, Patrick. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Filling us in on the secret life of a DJ and
Secret life of radio stations.
Yeah. With the secret life of a DJ, it involves me getting home at 4 a.m. after finally getting paid and just making a big pot of pasta, eating the pasta from said pot, and then looking out the window, seeing the sun is coming up and thinking, I really need to go to bed.
Rub it in. Living the good life.
It's just like, we'll be taken down. Where's the after party? After party? I'm going to bed.
The after party is pasta.
Yeah.
It's in my belly.
It's just like, are any of y'all cutting a check for the after party? Because if not, I'm going home.
Hey, well, thanks so much, man. I enjoyed this very much. This was, that's very cool. Absolutely, man. Thank you very much. Well, thanks everybody for checking in. And as always, like and subscribe. We truly appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much.
All right. Be well. This is my favorite channel.
So